This week's video is a mixture of preservation projects and just some regular around the house meal prepping for our large family of 9. And I'm starting off this week with Blackberry Jam. So I got a 5-pound box of blackberries from Azure Standard frozen, but you can see here that the bottom half was like one big clump. Separated them, and I decided with the big block I'll just make some freezer jam. And I'm making freezer jam just because we're anticipating a move, so a lot of my projects are freezer projects, and I like that because I can control the amount of sugar even much more than like Pomona's pectin. But I added only a little bit of sugar, some lemon, some dried mint from last year, and it made a very nice, different flavored blackberry jam. And I put it in these freezer-friendly containers. I label the top of them, and then I always put stuff in my fridge before I move it to the freezer the next day. And this will be good on pancakes or biscuits or what have you. And don't worry, we scraped that pot of jam. Next up is a little freezer prep of some eggs. I initially were just going to freezer prep eggs to have a snacky type lunch, but then one of my children asked about having some tuna. And one of our children cannot have fish. They cannot consume fish. They get violently ill. So when I make tuna, I also have to make some egg salad. So that is what I'm doing. And I make my tuna salad and egg salad pretty much the same. I take chopped dill pickles, salt, pepper, a little Dijon mustard, mayo, and a little bit of pickle juice. And I just mix that up to the consistency I want. And then I will do the same thing with egg salad. And if I'm really on top of it, I like to make it the morning of. Flavors just develop a whole lot more when you have it prepped a little bit beforehand. I do like to prep it beforehand. And we don't typically eat our tuna salad and egg salad on sandwiches. We actually just prefer it on crackers. So that's what our family does. Our next up freezer project is some herbed butter. And I do have a video that is all about how I do chive butter, because chive butter is really great in mashed potatoes and things. But this time I decided to do some herbs. I had some green onions and some marjoram, if that's how you say it. And the trick with this is using softened butter, and I just take my sticks and I put it in room temperature water, and it will soften in about 15 to 20 minutes. We try not to use our microwave, even though we do have one. We don't prefer to use it that much. So if I know ahead of time I need softened butter, I just do the water method. And then I just make sure it's mixed thoroughly with a spatula, and I actually just use the same paper wrapped, and then I just kind of mold it, and then I put it back in the fridge, and then I will collect these and put them in the freezer, and I will just easily cut a little bit off when I want to make mashed potatoes or on steak or whatever. Next up is granola bars, and this recipe has been amazing since finding it, because I used to make like energy balls, and this takes such less time, even though it has most of the same ingredients. And I like to change up what is in this just based on what we have. This time it is cranberry chocolate chip is what I did with dried cranberries, but I can't take credit for this recipe. This is a Ruth Ann Zimmerman, and she does have a YouTube video, homesteading with the Zimmermans, but here is this. You can screenshot her recipe, and if you like the recipe card, I do have a link for the recipe cards in the description if you want. Next up, more pesto. I did share this in last week's preservation video, but I pulled most of my basil. I might get one more batch out, but we do like pesto. So I'm making another batch, and I actually just use the Costco pesto recipe that is on the back of the pine nut recipe. And the trick I like to use is roasted garlic, and the type of basil also can change the taste of pesto. Next up is mushrooms. So I bought these on sale, and then they were starting to turn, and a lot of times when they start turning, I just throw them in my broth bag because it's kind of a no fuss kind of a thing. But this time I wanted to have sauteed mushrooms to be able to put into soups later on, or on pizza, or in some risotto. So I took the time to clean them off, and then I'm going to chop them up. I'm still going to put the stems in my broth bag, but the one trick that I recently learned about wanting sauteed mushrooms is you put your mushrooms in a dry pan, and then you let the moisture cook off, and then you add the oil to finish sauteing them. And then we ended up using some of this for a pizza night, and the rest, about half of the batch went to pizza and half went into the freezer for another meal. And then, like I said, the stems did not go to waste. They will be put to use in broth coming up soon. And then the other thing I meal prepped was meatballs. These I like to have just because I can make meatball subs, I can make spaghetti meatballs, I can cut them and put them in lasagna or what have you. But I am again using my same herbs, and they're actually freeze dried. I find that the flavor is so much better than just dried herbs in general. Parmesan cheese and egg, salt and pepper. I don't usually put in breadcrumbs or anything if I don't know exactly what I'm going to use the meatballs for, because I feel like they keep their form and shape a little better. And then here I just lined them in my 9x13 because I do end up using them for a recipe. And then I bake them. And if I put them in the freezer, I like half bake them so they can finish baking. But one of our favorite ways is Hawaiian meatballs. So later that day, I put some chunked pineapple and some favorite barbecue sauce, and I cook in oven.